then this is the raised bed that we filled and planted, and you'll see all of the peas are up in here as well. Good germination. We haven't given them any protection, we've just planted them. And yes, the soil looks dry, but I can assure you it's not. This is a really deep bed, and it's all compost. And there's plenty of moisture down there for them. Dwarf French beans again. As you can see, we're going to have a few dwarf French beans. I think there's only one there failed. Yeah, and I don't know if you can see on the camera, but the carrots are through as well. So there's 2 rows of carrots in here. Yeah, here's the first row, and there's the second one. Now they've germinated really fast. They've all came up more or less the same, and I would have expected the carrots not to be through yet, but that looks pretty good germination as well, and fairly well spaced considering. Pleased with that. Morning and welcome back to Alan's Allotment. It's now Sunday the 12th of June 2022. So you can see we have harvested some of these lettuces. 1 or 2 little slug eaten leaves. They're in the compost bin, it's no problem. Now I came up here today with the intentions of working on these pallet fronts. We'll let the airflow in there, but to be honest it's not an urgent job. But more importantly, I had a quick look around. My daughter came up and we had a quick look around, and I just happened to be telling her about the potatoes we'd taken and had for our tea and how nice they were. And I thought I'll pull a couple up and give you some for your lunch. And on inspection I was very surprised to see what I found. And as you can see, I've now harvested this entire bed, again 2 weeks early. And the reason for that, when I came to pull a couple of plants up to give her some potatoes for a lunch, I discovered this. On these potatoes. Now I'm pretty certain this is blight, but I might be wrong. Now the variety of potato is rocket, and I'm just wondering, is this a trait of rocket when it's ready, or is it actually blight? Perhaps someone with more knowledge than me can help me out on this. Either way, as you can see, the potatoes aren't very tall, and I'm wondering if that's another trait of rocket potatoes. I'm not sure. Or whether we need to get some more feed in these beds, although this year they are going to be dressed down. And to be honest, I didn't put any feed in these beds. And some plants appear to be slightly more affected than others, but then there's 2 here with none of the spotting on, and there's another one there with no spotting on. However, I decided, because of it, if it is blight, I want them out. I could just cut them off at the stocking tops, but to be honest they won't grow anymore, will they? So I thought I might as well harvest them. And as you can see, I've got some really nice, useful new potatoes. Even better than what I pulled the other night for our tea. So it seemed like the further I went into the bed, the better they got. But what's really strange, if it's blight, there's none on the adjacent beds. Because as soon as I seen that, I went and inspected the rest of the potatoes. And these are clean. At least for now. As are all of the second earlies, the Charlotte and the Kestrel, and look really healthy. So and to be fair, that's not a bad harvest out of 2 beds. We've got a fair old haul of potatoes there. And overall, I'm happy. It could have been much worse. They're not a bad size at all. Most of them about an egg size, or rather quite a lot of about an egg size. But even the smaller ones are just taste sweet as a nut, just washed and boiled. So we have quite a lot of new potatoes to keep us going for a while. And I'm going to do something I normally would never do, but when I was pulling these potatoes, I noticed that this As you can see, the beds have dropped significantly, and I noticed the native soil underneath, which we are down to, of course. The potatoes were bedded in there and they were really difficult to get out. And what I'm going to do, it's something, as I say, I normally wouldn't do, but I'm going to run a little rotivator and I'm going to dig all of the good nutritious compost and cow manure into there. I'm not going to go deep, just a little deeper, maybe 6 inches, 8 inches, and then I'm going to fish blood and bone this, top it up with fresh manure, ready for the next crop. And I'm going to do the same with this one, just to see the difference next year, or with the next crops. Yes, we'll still get weeds, but we'll have to keep on top of them. Just one other thing as well, because I'm fairly sure this is blight, or rather I should say because I'm not sure if it's blight, I'm not going to take any gambles, and consequently I've bagged all the tops and the old seed potatoes into there, and these will not be going on the compost heap. Right guys, I've got the little electric tiller out and I've basically started on this bed, and all I've been doing is going down about 6 inches, 4 or 6 inches below this bed. But what was really noticeable about these beds do tend to hold a lot of water, and what was really noticeable was the native soil underneath was absolutely compacted. So I'm just scratching the surface just to give me that extra depth, and this is a way of getting extra depth on your beds without adding more. You're going down a bit. Now it's not ideal, but the thing is they will eventually return to no dig. Once we've done this, I know that they're then deep enough for potatoes as well, and then when we dress them off we'll go back to no dig and they won't be dug over ever again. So we'll crack on. Right, so this is not an instructional video for you to go out and dig up your no dig beds. It was an observation that I made, and basically so this is a mistake I made this year. I didn't fill up, I was too busy concentrating on doing everything else. I didn't fill up my beds back to the top, and I didn't put any top layer of compost on this year, and they'd sunk quite a bit. So I was literally only 3, at best 4 inches of growing medium for my potatoes this year. Now that might explain why they didn't grow very tall in those beds. But also I noticed that this year the beds seem to be holding a lot more water for some reason. That might also explain why the climbing beans have gone pale and yellow. Maybe the beds are too wet. So when we lifted the potatoes, for the reasons that you're seeing on the video, I was only going down 2 or 3 inches and I was getting all of the potatoes, and what was obvious that the potatoes were trying to dig that little bit deeper and bury themselves into this solid ground. Now I didn't realise that ground was as compacted as it was when I first done the raised bed, but I'm convinced in that ground there's a lot of nutrients that have never been accessible to the plants. It does 2 things for me. I'm not saying it'll work for everyone, it does 2 things for me. Without buying more compost, although I'm going to, ironically, and top the beds up, but what I've done is I've increased the depth of those grow beds to about 12 inches deep now. And I believe I've aerated the beds and hopefully have better drainage in those beds, which should be much better going forward. And of course we will give them a good feed with fish blood and bone, and then we'll top dress them. Now when I said about fresh manure as well, it won't be fresh manure, I meant fresh compost is what I meant. And I might even mix a little bit of perlite in the next batches before we top dress. I may and may not, we'll wait and see. But yeah, hopefully you found this little video either entertaining, crazy, or of some use. But as always guys, I really do appreciate your comments, likes and your dislikes. And your subscriptions. We're nearly, I think it was 990 the last time I looked, so we're nearly at that big 1000. So if you don't mind guys, if you could take the time to just hit that little subscribe button, then the little bell icon, select all, that will alert you every time I put up a new video, and that will help to get me to the 1000 subscribers. As always guys, wherever you are in the world, please do stay safe, be practical, keep yourselves out of harm's way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.